April, roll call, please.
Mr. Van Berenson?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Here.
Mr. Lowe will be detained this evening. Mr. Galtieri?
Here.
Mr. Jallo? Not here. Mr. Tawari?
Here.
And Chairman Havakovich.
Here. Okay, how about the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless our troops and bring them home safe.
Amen.
In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 231 New Jersey Public Law of 1975, the Open Public Meeting Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the giving of notice to the Courier News, posting the agenda in the public lobby of this building 48 hours prior to the meeting, delivery of this notice to the Franklin Township Clerk at least 48 hours prior to the meeting, and mailing notices to those persons properly requesting to be mailed notification of this meeting 48 hours prior to this meeting. Okay. Welcome to our new Executive Director, Brian Regan. Has everybody had a chance to meet him?
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the board for their confidence in selecting me. As you know, I was a councilman here in town for 8 years, and then serving on as a liaison to this to the authority, and then also as a commissioner for a little over 2 years. So it's a real honor and pleasure to be able to be here and sit in the executive director's chair, figuratively, and I look forward to working with you all. And to, as I said in my interview, to let's meet our goals. Let's meet them on time with quality and within budget. I mean, that's kind of a 35-year career in telecommunications. I've developed many complicated and international systems, and it was always about that: delivery on time with quality and within budget. And ultimately, that's what I plan on being accountable to you all for. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion to open the meeting for public comment.
Motion. Second.
Do we have to take a roll call?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Seeing no public, do we have a motion to close the meeting for
Close.
public comment? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Alright, you're doing approval minutes.
Okay. Has everyone had a chance to review the working and monthly meeting minutes for the April 3rd, 2018 meeting? Any comments?
You're good.
Corrections? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Roll call.
No, roll call.
Oh, roll call, sorry.
Mr. Van Berenson?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Galtieri?
Yes.
Mr. Jallo is not here, and Ms. Bennett is also not here. Mr. Tawari?
Here.
And Chairman Havakovich.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll hold off on executive session till later on, or we want to do that now?
Is there anything anyone has an issue with? Otherwise, you can approve it.
You have time. You have a folder here. The green folder.
I'm not gonna agree.
You know what? You took this folder?
No. I didn't touch it.
Joe took the folder.
Joe took the folder.
Oh, you can't
Okay.
find anything. Joe took the
Alright.
folder.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Seeing,
I'm gonna pass these around for everyone to review them.
Why don't we hold it off? You'll take a look at it
Okay.
during the reports, and then we can adopt it after.
Okay, so we'll hold off on that?
Okay.
Okay, so. Yeah. Get that. There you go. Oh. Okay, so before we continue on. I
I'll
guess
take
the
Is there any
reports are
extra
next,
yet?
I'll
right?
take the rest of them
Okay.
and
Before we continue on, I'd like to
Scott, you were
stop
omitted
the
from
meeting
part
for a
of the
second.
meeting, so you
and,
have to pull them back.
Okay,
Any
So-
others? Okay.
before the night gets too long, I have the bittersweet I don't know, privilege or, I don't, thank you, that's what it was, responsibility of, Mr. Chairman, we would like to present you with a plaque for your years of service. I know personally, I am going to be missing you. I mean, we've known each other for many years now. You've taught me a lot. You've taught me a lot in the past 2.5 years now, and I can't thank you enough for all of it. And I couldn't imagine learning under somebody more expertise. I know the authority has benefited significantly, and overall the town also has significant benefited from your contributions that you've made, and we thank you for the tireless effort that you've made to give all that you could to this authority. You've put in a lot of hours, you've come to a lot of meetings, and it's appreciated, and I know a lot of people have benefited. So we'd like to present you with this plaque for as a token of our appreciation for all the years that you've served.
I want to thank you very much. And I've been missing it, and as you know, I love sewage, so I'm going to try to get on a board down in South Carolina. But I've been doing sewage since I was really 15 years old, because my neighbor was my advisor at Rutgers, and one day he said to me, "What are you going to do with your life?" I said, "I'm going to be a basketball player." He said, "Well, come on with me. I'm going to take you to a sewage treatment plant." Well, he took me to a sewage treatment plant. He was my advisor all through Rutgers and environmental engineering, and the next thing you know, I was superintendent of New Jersey's largest wastewater treatment plant, and put 36 years in there, and I think it was, 15 here?
Yeah.
So
What are we having in 2001 through 2018?
Yep. So I want to thank you guys very much for putting up with me for 15 years, and wish I could have spent a little more time, but had to move on. Got to get closer to my daughter. So someday, Mr. Tuari might be my next door neighbor.
I will.
Because his son lives just down the block, right next door to where my daughter works. So
You got a couple more years. I can't stop him. 15 years, I can't stop him. But
Well, who knows?
Mr. Chairman, I, on behalf of, as you know, the board here, but just me personally, I also want to extend my thanks to you. When I came, I think I came to as a liaison in 2012, and we had known each other prior to that, being members of St. Matthias and our paths crossing previously. But your technical knowledge that you have and have contributed over the years to this commission and to this board has been substantial in nature. In fact, I believe it's well known that the reputation of the sewage authority is very well, highly regarded in the state of New Jersey, and I believe part of that is due to your contribution you've made since I've been here. You've been very helpful to me when I came on, and then after when you were appointed chair, and I moved into the vice chair slot. You were very supportive, and we talked and we dealt with a lot of sensitive issues that had to be addressed, and you always did it in a very professional manner, and you just always were, as Will implied, or as stated, very open to sharing your information and then just helping us come along. So
Yep.
I'm going to, I think there's a resolution in here tonight to have you stay for another 6 weeks. I'm not letting that go, because it was only after the interview where I found out, and you're going. So I'm really going to miss you, but also I understand, you got to go where your heart's got to go.
Yeah.
And so that's, as a father, we understand these things. So I wish you and Jean the very best.
Yep.
And always know that, if you're back here ever on the first Tuesday of the month, you make sure we're expecting you to come and visit, and maybe even actually say something in public session.
yeah, we might actually have
Okay.
public session for once.
Again, thank you very much.
I'll try to come back, and I hope one of the commissioners retires soon, so maybe he can go to the job meetings and keep up what's going on too. So I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm done derailing the meeting. We can now continue flying on.
Okay, so what do we have next here? We have consulting engineers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've submitted a status report. I'll go over the items on the status report this evening, give an update to the commissioners, and answer any questions that there may be on any of the ongoing work. The first item on the status report is the Rodney Avenue Pumping Station. The construction officials issued a temporary certificate of occupancy for the building, for the pump station on March 28th. There are several conditions that need to be addressed by Carborough prior to June 28th for issuance of a final certificate of occupancy.
Is he working on them?
The two items are final inspection by the building department, engineering, and Somerset Union Soil Conservation. So the Somerset Union Soil Conservation has to do with final site restoration, so that work is currently ongoing, yes.
Let the record reflect Commissioner DeVoe has arrived at 6:49.
Noted.
Next item, the pumping station received sewage the first time on April 2nd. That indicated a substantial completion of the pump station. There have been no significant operational issues on the pumping station since its initial operation. Right now, we're probably about 70% of the total flow. There are two other connections that need to be made on the Doraus Brook and then at the upper end on Runyon. The Runyon connection should be completed later this week. That was started on Oak Brook on April 12th. So we did have to make a minor adjustment to the slope on that line to get a couple of the houses on the upper end, but that was made and has been completed in the field.
Was that a change order at all?
I don't believe that there was any change to that. We did change the pipe size, so that I believe that was covered under a unit cost item, unit price item. So we just paid it under that unit price. We had a walkthrough on the pumping station in conjunction with our office and Scott. We developed a deficiency list that was distributed for review today internally. Once we have a final review of that list, that'll be issued to Carborough for him to take care of prior to final completion.
Was he on that walkthrough, or he was not?
He was not. No, it was just Scott, myself, Dave Coates, and Jay.
So Joe, this was all on the list that they were supposed to complete?
This is there were two lists. There was one list that was for prior to introduction of sewage into the pumping station. That list was taken care of by the contractor. This is a final deficiency list that must be taken care of prior to final payment of the contract.
Okay.
Right now, by change order, which will be discussed in a little bit, change order number 3 establishes a final construction completion date of June 26th. That's final, everything done and completed.
Now, did he ever complete the items that we had on the previous punch list?
That was the, as I said, there were two lists, one for introduction of sewage, that was completed. The second list listed a number of items to be completed prior to final payment. Those have not been addressed.
Okay.
He has been working on those, however.
Sorry, and can you, I'm sorry, can you repeat the completion date, the estimated completion date?
Change order establishes that as June 26th,
So that's inside and outside.
final completion.
And the
including all
pipes, the
pavement.
pipes out of the
Yes.
creek, too?
Pipes out of the creek, final paving, all installation of pipe, final restoration, completion of the punch list, and ready for final payment.
And the dirt mound will be gone too?
Be part of that.
That's part of the contract work.
Okay,
That's added in by change order.
okay.
So the dirt work didn't start yet?
That is correct. Okay, I mentioned change order number 3, that's submitted this evening for approval. That reflects a negotiated global settlement and a final contract price of $14.4 million. That'll be discussed, I believe, a little bit later on the acting executive director's report. Next item on the report is the Hamilton Street Pumping Station. We received a minor comment from the county engineer's office on the driveway slope. We're working out that final detail with the county engineer.
So originally, they just wanted the manhole moved. Now
Right.
they're saying the slope of the driveway is,
We moved the driveway, and they are looking for us to flatten it out within the right-of-way, the county right-of-way. So we're working on that.
how long will that take to?
We're trying to
Redesign.
schedule a meeting so that we can get that expedited and get it completed. We initiated work on the NJEIT submission. We've uploaded the letter of intent and are in process of uploading the planning document. There are certain steps that the authority has to take prior to uploading of the planning document, but that has been submitted and is ready to go. The letter of intent just needs to be acknowledged and submitted by the authorized representative, who is a authority personnel. So that would be April. She'll receive instructions on how to do that, so she'll be able to do that, and then we can upload the planning document.
I did receive a phone call from someone in your office this afternoon, and she said she would be forwarding that over to me.
Okay, I know she sent an email with some detailed
Yes.
instructions, so.
Yeah, we
If
have
there's
it.
any issues with that, by all means, let us know and we can help out.
Absolutely,
going through that.
thank you.
So once the planning document is uploaded, then the next step would be to upload the plans and specifications for their funding approval.
And now they may require changes.
They usually look at their administrative requirements for the funding program, not so much the technical
Yeah,
aspects.
but don't they have a technical review on it since we're,
That would really be under the treatment works approval.
oh, okay.
So that would be, actually, the next item on the report is, the treatment works approval extension was requested. We have a one-year extension to February 2019. So
Will the station be done by then?
it only has to be initiated.
Oh, okay.
That's initiation of construction. Okay. The next item is the Foxwood Drive sanitary sewer rehabilitation. Two items with this. We have to provide a executed engineering agreement for construction phase services to the DEP, and give them 3 sets of plans and specifications that are final, have the final revisions in that. We sent in the final revisions of the contract documents to the DEP today. There's the execution of the engineering agreement on the agenda for this evening. Once that's executed, we'll provide that to the DEP, and we'll receive our authorization to advertise. Once we receive that, we can advertise, which has been previously authorized by the authority. And based on that happening this week, we'll be able to receive bids on the 29th of this month and have a contract before the authority for approval for the next meeting.
So you're gonna keep the bid date to the 10 days? that you need?
It's a little bit longer than 10 days.
Okay.
No action can be taken on the contract prior to the next meeting, so we extended it as much as we could to make it to the next meeting, give bidders the opportunity to receive the bid documents, review them, and put their bids together.
Now, you've gone out and told the possible prospective bidders that this job is going out soon, so some of the companies at least know that, this is coming out?
I've been in contact with National Water Main to let them know that that may be coming. I know Scott has also been talking to some of the potential contractors, just to
Okay.
let them know that it's coming.
This way, at least they have a heads up and. Correct. They might get a few bids on it.
Yes. The next item is the asset management plan. Right now, we're working on the GIS portion of that. Our GIS specialist, Jason Syak, was in today working with Christian to try to transition some of that data management and management of the GIS system to Christian so that he can manage that and make changes to it internally. Today, I understand they worked on the permits for the individual connections. There's some correlation that needs to be done to assign those permits to the roads that they are associated with. And then from point forward, that'll be done on a lot-by-lot basis, so that that information will be accessible to Scott and authority staff for individual parcels rather than individual roads. And I know Scott was in on that, and I think he was happy with the way it was progressing. Next aspect of this project will be looking at the pump stations and assigning the attributes and correlating the documentation to those pump stations so that that is accessible to authority staff through the GIS system. And the last item on the status report is the Marcy Street sanitary sewer rehabilitation. We're in process of going through all of the CCTV reports that have been done by the authority staff. We're going through and preparing recommendations for rehabilitation to different areas. We'll meet with the authority staff to correlate those and get approval of what we're proposing, and then we'll be putting the specifications together. That actually correlates with the IMPIA fees. We had a meeting on April 4th to discuss how this project may be funded through use of those IMPIA fees, and a subsequent meeting will be likely necessary to finalize that discussion. That completes my report for this evening. If there's any-
I think it's part of the asset management, where it was to upgrade the map behind Michael.
That is the new map that we have prepared. We are going to replot it to fit the frame size. We have measurements.
Okay, so our guys won't have to cut the frame down then?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And we'll be able to
Oh,
plot
that's
that to that size. We have measurements on that today. Jason came in and measured that up. But that'll be what's accessible to authority staff on an overall basis, and then really to drill down into the individual streets, pump stations, and all of the different assets that are on there.
So when do you think that'll be printed so they can get it back up on the wall there?
We can probably get that printed within a week or so.
Okay.
That's something that we have to really outsource because
Yep.
of the roller size. That's a 48-inch, so it's something we'll be able to get fairly quickly.
And then what about the photo of the construction project?
Again, we're waiting till that's a little better completed as far
Looks
as
a little
rehabilitation,
neater.
so it looks,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
more finished. Absolutely.
Good, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, for
Yes.
the Foxwood, I saw in the notes that you submitted all the roads to the municipality, I believe, already?
Yes, we have.
Okay. So again, the only thing that I want to say with that is we'll just have to work with the contractor. The school year is starting later this year, towards the end of September, due to construction.
Okay.
So if we can work with the contractor to figure out the busy, I mean, between working with the contractor at the authority and then if the municipality with traffic safety, try to do the bus routes first, or the heavier bus routes, if there's any that are impacted. Hopefully, if they can start as soon as possible, I'm assuming through June, probably late June would be when they would start. They'll give them approximately 2.5 to 3 months to get those out of the way, if it's feasible or possible, and then go to the side streets. If it's just impossible because of the way they have to, I don't want to dictate how they're working. It's just if they can try to do that, they'd be appreciated. If they
Okay.
can't, then of course we'll have to follow what their recommendation is. But
So maybe you can bring that up at the pre-construction meeting,
Yep.
whoever
yeah, somebody from traffic
the
traffic
successful
safety.
bidder is.
We've already provided the plans to Corporal
Okay.
Herman, so
Yep.
we can have a discussion before we have the pre-con about that, so we can hit the ground running once that's,
And school starts on September 20th.
Yep.
okay.
So you get you get about 2 to
Couple
3
extra
extra
weeks.
weeks, and with Connerly's over there, so that's probably Connerly and Pine Grove might be slightly impacted, but probably Connerly the most with the bus routes. No,
Not in this phase, no.
for Foxwood.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
Pine
all
Grove,
right.
not.
So there'll be buses, but probably not major routes. But if we can try to get some of those.
Okay,
The cluster of roads in that area, they're all intertwined. It's gonna be very difficult to do.
Yep.
I'm sure, we could try and make an attempt, But the way everything feeds out to the main drag of Foxwood Drive and,
Yep.
and Winston and stuff like that, it's gonna be very difficult to do.
That's why I said, if it's not feasible, if we can at least make an attempt and try, but you have to do what makes more sense construction-wise also. So. Okay.
So do we have to modify in the spec the time frame? Because I know in the past contracts, they've all been complaining that, we start at 7 o'clock in the morning. But the town has an ordinance that you can't start before,
We just have to apply
9
for,
o'clock?
I think we have to just apply for a variance.
or just make sure that it's noted in there, because I know on previous,
Job meeting.
job meetings, or, pre-con meetings, the contractors were complaining, well, I didn't know that,
So,
because we just have the saying in there, you must abide by all township regulations. Maybe if, I don't know if it's too late or not, but just put something in there maybe now, so we don't run into that problem.
Okay.
yep. I would put in the hours, but then see if we can maybe get a variance from the municipality
You know.
of starting earlier, starting outside that window. Maybe approach the conversation now. This way, when we're out for bid, if the contractor does want to start earlier, I mean, there's noise levels also, there's noise restrictions, so that's why we want to make sure we abide. But I don't think anybody's going to start really before 7:30. But if we can try, if we approach it now, knowing that we've got this coming on, and see if the town would be welcoming that, then, or accommodating of that, then this way we can help with the contractors when you're meeting with them
So you
as
might
well.
wanna put the town's time in there now, and say there's a possibility of them asking for a variance of the town. But if we don't put that in there now, they're gonna, a lot of contractors, at least from my past experience, they wanna start as early as they can.
Right.
And 9 o'clock is not early for them. So,
That is
okay,
true.
thank
Okay.
you.
I'm done derailing. Let's go.
And we're done with CME?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. General Counsel's report.
General Counsel's report, item number 1, Mr. Chairman, in continuation of the comments relative to your final meeting, it has also been a pleasure to work with you, to bother you on ongoing occasions at all hours of the day and night,
No problem.
and vice versa. I will be moving in. Phil and
Like I
have
said,
been-
the room's available.
Phil and I have
to be
been talking
furnished.
about this for a
Fully
while.
furnished.
The board all has my monthly status report. I do want to have a brief, and underline the word brief, conversation about the Rodney Avenue issue in executive session before the board approves what I
Okay.
hope will be the resolution and the change
Okay.
order. Otherwise, if anyone has any questions in regard to what's on my report, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, that's my report.
Okay.
You all have had to have read it.
Thank you for finalizing the agreement with the new executive
Yes.
director. I'm sure. a
I'm
lot
sure
of
he was
people are happy.
thrilled, yeah. I would like to thank Brian for just doing what some of us do on a regular basis, which is taking time out of our quote-unquote vacations to sign his life away and make his comments, and we had no problem working it out, bothering the personnel committee in regard to dealing with that issue. So that's gonna be you, kiddo.
I need volunteers for the personnel committee too.
Not even the personnel committee volunteered for the phone calls.
That too.
Other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, acting executive director's report.
Okay. You all have copies of the report in detail, the standard revenue report, the expense report, and the cash position report. It's in the front of it. A few discussion items this evening are going to be the authorization of pay estimate number 25 for Carbo Constructors. If you need it, I have copies of that, if anybody would like to
Well,
see that, since it'll be discussed later.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will pass around a copy for everyone for the discussion during the executive session.
You don't memorize it?
Also for discussion will be the authorization for change work order number 3 from Carbo Constructors. As Eric has mentioned, that will be discussed under the executive session.
Both items will be, as I said, it's brief.
Also, the authority budget, as submitted for 2018-2019, we did a late introduction and submission to the budget. We are still awaiting final notation from the DCA. They did send me notification and let me know that they are still reviewing it, because it was a late submittal for them. And they are going to ask for a little bit more attention as far as the line items, the details. So Brian and I will work on that together. But we are still awaiting their responses.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, when did we notice the public hearing?
We did, what?
You can't not. When did we notice the public hearing? Or have we noticed the public hearing for the budget?
It was supposed to be for tonight, I believe.
Right, it seems you have to have a public hearing tonight.
Okay.
Even though there is no budget to adopt, since we have noticed a public hearing, you're gonna have to have a public hearing.
Okay.
We can-
So we have to amend the agenda to say,
So I call
and do call for it, and then a
public
motion
hearing,
to
yeah.
open and close.
Right.
But
Okay.
we certainly did advertise for it tonight, hoping that we would have it back in time for this meeting.
Then
We
the
did.
question will be whether or not it makes sense to close the public hearing or to leave it open until the next meeting. That's an issue we'll have to have a discussion about.
Okay.
Did we get anything from DCA as to what the issues were they were looking for?
It's still under, it's because it was a late submission, it did not allow them any time to get through the entire thing. But Mr. Ewert said that he would be sending us back response with the details. They just needed more time than
Then I would probably recommend we not close the public hearing.
Okay. So just
So then
motion.
you don't have to renotice it.
Okay,
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
yeah, I'll put it,
Because
I'll.
we don't know what the
advertise.
change.
And then the
without-
continuation.
Without the we don't know what the changes would
Right.
be, so therefore, rather than going through it, having to renotice it, the whole thing was
Should
just
we
like,
do that
well,
now or later?
Why don't we do it at the end of the report?
Okay.
But we will then go back and put a public notice in anticipation for the next meeting.
No, you won't have to public
We don't
notice.
do it again?
No,
No, that's- okay.
I'll explain it when we're done.
Okay, wonderful.
Basically, we're leaving it open, but closing the meeting, but leaving
go-
open session open.
Whatever you want, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. Just like the township council meetings.
Well, we're safer saying what he said.
I'm voting no
I
at
got-
the next
I got
council
what he
meeting to close it.
Yeah,
That hurts.
okay. For discussion this evening, we will also be increasing the user fee of 3% to $321, and the reduced rate for anyone who qualifies for that would be $273. The 3% increase was part of the 5-year plan that we had, and so we will already put that notice up in the lobby and also on the website so that people are aware that this is going to be part of their November billing. Okay. There is a rate amendment connection fee for 2018-2019. I've received the information from Andy Hodgewick's office. We did get it back after the date that we would have met the 10-day notification in the paper. So that will go out, and it'll be done at the June 3rd, I believe, that first meeting in June. So we may have a few days in between where it would not be meeting the effective date of June 1, but we will publicize and let people know that there will be an increase. So I have copies of that for everyone, so you can see the calculation and what the new rate will be.
So April, I have a question.
Sure.
The fee increase of 3%, what's the reason behind it? Is that,
It was the
CPI type?
strategic plan, there was a 5-year strategic business plan, and it talked about all of the capital budget items and how it would impact the residents. And so there was a projection in order to cover those expenses that there would be a 3%, and they spread it out over a 3-year window. And we advertised for that, I think sometime in like maybe 2015. So we did not have to advertise again. It was a public notice that covered that whole window and what the plan was for the 5-year window.
do we relook at it, the 5-year plan that we did? Do we kind of go back and say, is it still warranted to increase it?
We have not revisited to the best of my knowledge since it was
At this point,
initiated.
has it been
Commissioner,
decided with this year?
Commissioner, I'll take that as an item to work. I won't promise it for the next meeting, but I will add it to my
Thank you.
list over the next couple of months to
Thank you.
revisit that.
Thank you.
Because we'll be doing the budget this month,
yeah.
and then as part of that, sometime over the next quarter, I'll look at that.
Thank you.
What happened in the past is we went like 8 years without an increase.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what? We're now hitting the public with a big rate increase. This way, we said if we do
Spread it.
3% each year,
Spread it, yeah.
which is, I don't know, what was it, $15 a year increase or something? You came up
Mine
with a
no.
cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's like 75 cents. It came out to about
Yeah,
$9 to
yeah.
$10 a year for the next each year.
Yes.
Yeah, I use that as my metric.
Analogy, he used a cup of
Yeah,
coffee
yeah.
there, that it's not even costing you a cup
I think
of
I was
coffee.
in the discussion here
Yep.
for that.
And that's
that
why we-
discussion I remember.
Yeah, right.
I'm
I
just
remember
saying that
5 years.
maybe sometimes it's worthwhile to take a relook at it and see
Yes.
if we can give some relief
Hold
to
that
people.
thought for my portion where I have to report in a couple of minutes. You'll understand why we got to keep going with this.
The next item for discussion is the communication media policy. I had sent that out to everyone, and it was on the Dropbox for your review. After getting some feedback, we did get approval from general counsel that the amendments that were suggested and recommended were acceptable. And so I have that this evening as a resolution to adopt those changes to the media policy. And you'll see that in your packet with the resolutions, it's behind there. Any of the items that are italicized were the changes, that way it would be easier for you instead of having to read the entire document. Okay. Hamilton Street Pump Station, there was a plan-in document that was sent around by C&E. If you want to speak to that, Joe, the Hamilton Street?
Sure. This is a document that needs to be provided to the DEP as part of the funding process for the Environmental Infrastructure Trust process. So this is the document that will be uploaded to the H2 Loans site, which is the clearinghouse for all of the documentation that's required for the funding of the project. Again, as I mentioned, the letter of intent needs to be submitted prior to step 2, which is the planning document upload. And once that's done, we will upload this document to the H2 Loan site.
It's a work in progress, but I figured you'd have a hard copy of the document so you could be able to read through it as he speaks to it for the next couple of meetings. Okay. The next thing is what Joe had mentioned, the engineering agreement with FTSA and CME for the sanitary sewer rehabilitation of Foxwood Drive, the drainage area. This is relative to the bid and the construction phase. So here is a copy, because this is an agreement that everyone will be just furthering for consideration for accepting.
Okay. Just a brief description. I believe that this was reviewed by legal. We had come to an agreement on some language changes that were incorporated in there, and I have 2 executed copies for signature by the authority this evening. And once those are executed, again, I'll upload those to the DEP. This is one of the process and checklist items that they need prior to issuing an authorization to advertise. After the meeting, I'll give April a copy of the original documents.
The next 2 items are items that are actually for the closed executive session. It will be regarding the COLA increases for the non-union employees and also the merit increases for the administrative staff that it was applicable to, and all those employees have been given rights notices.
And all have waived.
And all have waived. I knew he was gonna look at me and say, did she send out the rights notices? I did.
You get an atta girl.
Yay, thank you. There are just
I
some.
didn't get one.
You get an atta guy.
I didn't get a rice notice.
Oh.
I have copies for you, because I CC'd
That
him.
means he wants a raise.
There are copies for you.
I CC'd him on every one of them, there's a
That's right.
copy.
You got all of it.
He wants to discuss his employment
Yeah,
status.
that's
The other items aren't necessarily discussion items, but I just wanted the board to be kept advised and in well communication as to what is going on behind the scenes for your knowledge. I have signature authorization cards this evening for TD Bank. I've already made them aware that we have a new executive director, so I wanted to get those signed this evening so that we can get him actively with the signature. There is a Bank of New York incumbency certificate for individuals that are authorized for the callback. I have that signature card ready this evening. I have a letter for Will to sign this evening. It's the announcement of the new executive director, and it's the notification to the vendors as we get invoices in, we can send that. Yes, you own that now. He's giving me to look like me, but that's what we sent out for myself Phil sent down on my behalf when I was assigned the acting executive director, so we just wanted to let everyone know that Brian has authorization to speak and do business on behalf of the authority, so we'll get that signed this evening. I did receive the 5% surplus appropriation letter from the township, and have sent them a notification as to it being included in our budget, but I let them know that it was in the introduction stage, but it's well noted. There's been a lot of back and forth conversation with general counsel, with helping our staff engineer Christian on developer agreements, a lot of things going back and forth there. There was a request for some North Track information. There was an audit that was requested for the entire North Track. I've sent all that information over to Andy Hodgelik's office. He has it from start to finish, all the invoices, everything, and he has a flash drive. So that's been sent to his office, and it's under current review. Okay. There was an audit with the SED with the DEP regarding Rodney Avenue, and there was some mention of some closing documents, and it is a work in progress. I am in communication with them, and Dave Coates let me know that that would be all part of their closing document checklist, that they take responsibility for making sure those things were done. We had mentioned last month that we were going to go live with our new billing software, and we had to push that date out because there was one area in there that I wasn't very pleased with, and so they have corrected that. They've done the testing. Our billing clerks have gone in and given it their handshake as well, so we have changed the date now to May 14. I figured we've waited this long, we might as well send it out to perfection, to the best of our knowledge. So it will happen on May 14. The Thursday and the Friday before we'll start the transfer of all the information from the old server to the new. There's notification on the FTSA website as well as on the current billing software, letting the customers, the clients know that we are going to have the system down for 2 days, and that it'll go live on the 14th. When it goes live on the 14th, we already have cards to put in the foyer area for anyone who comes into the building, and we also have placards to sit around in the office, and we'll send a set over to the township. So we're well ready for the PR for it as well, the marketing. Okay. There's some Wilson Road project expenditures that we've sent over to Eric Bernstein's office as requested for further research, so he has that information. There were some North Track fee impact deposits that were requested, again, to do more research regarding that whole project, which Eric's office does have. And I've coordinated the authority field work for our fiscal year that'll close on May 31. We have a tentative date already with the auditing firm for July 10th. So they'll come in, we'll do the coordination meeting, and we'll make our dates where they can get the field work done in advance for us to have the audit ready sometime in October, November. So we already have a date on the calendar for that. And then we received the NJDEP interim inspection report relative to Rodney Avenue, and that's being addressed, and I'm sure that will be covered during the closed session. And then finally, we did go ahead and get myself registered with the NJDEP as an authorized representative. That allowed Scotty and Christian to go ahead and get permits taken care of. There was something to do with I think it was a generator or something like that, and they needed to have that redone, and I had to become authorized because the when that was the permit that was in there was no longer valid. It was incomplete because it was submitted prior to the bid authorization, so we've corrected that.
Yep.
And it's been approved, and they've sent us an invoice, it's already been paid, and everything is fine. So now we just have a non-tech type situation that I have to go in the system and take care of, and that has to be done anytime there's renewals for any of these permits. So I've had Christian do the research, and he gave me the listing of all the permits that were coming up for renewal, so we're just gonna go in and get everything set up in the system, so when they do come up for renewal, they're ready to go. So I'm working with Christian on that.
That's good.
All right?
That's
So-
the, if I may, April, that's the air permits for the generator
Mhm.
and the backflow device.
Backflow, yeah, I was gonna say backflow, guys.
Just so the board knows, when we submitted those, we did have to pay the fee all over again. They would not allow it to go because it was, they wouldn't, if you do any modifications, you pretty much start the process all over again. And since there were amendments to the specifications that had changed, it was a totally different request, just so you know that was taken care of. So this evening, in conclusion, tonight we're gonna have a resolution to ratify the late introduction and submission of the budget just so that we have a documentation. We did include something with the original submission, but I wanted a formal resolution to send with it in case they do ask us for something more. When they send their comments back, we won't have to wait for that for the next meeting. So we can get it moving and hopefully have it all done before June. There will be a resolution for the user fee of $321 with the reduced rate of $273. There will be a resolution authorizing the pay estimate number 25 for Carbo Constructors. There will be a resolution authorizing the change work order depending on the outcomes of your closed session for these two, for change order number 3. There will be a resolution for the engineering agreement for the sanitary sewer rehabilitation at Foxwood Drive drainage area for the bid and construction phase not to exceed $79,075.50. There will be a resolution for the amendment of the communications media policy, which are pages 23 and 24, and may push over into 26 with all the additions. Those 23 and 24 are the original page numbers in the book. There will be a resolution for the COLA for the cost of living increase for non-administrative staff of 2%. And then there will be resolutions for the administrative staff that was applicable for their merit increases. And if you note that these are all on their anniversary dates, not at one time or in January. They're all based on their anniversary dates throughout now up through 2019. And then those two things will be covered under the closed session relative to personnel matters. That is the conclusion of my report. I just wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity to sit with you as the acting executive director for the past 4 or 5 months. It's been a very nice learning experience, and I appreciate your belief in my ability to sit in this position. I'm very delighted that we have someone else to pass this over to. But I'm looking forward to the months ahead. And then, Phil, for you, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be under your watch since 2014. It's because of you that I was extended an opportunity to be employed here at the township, and I certainly appreciate that. And I certainly appreciate everything that you've taught me and the things that you have guided me through. And certainly working under your watch has been a pleasure and an honor, and I am very humbly thankful, because I remember 4 years ago I sat on that side of the table when you were interviewing me, and then tonight on your last night I'm spending my last night in this chair as the acting executive director. So I thank you for that. It's been a sincere blessing and a great opportunity, and I owe that to you.
It's great working with you too.
Thank you. I'll miss you.
Mr. Chairman, since we have noticed a public hearing on the budget for this evening, I would propose at this time that there be a motion to open for public hearing the budget for the Franklin Township Sewerage Authority for the fiscal year June 1, 2018 to May 31, 2019.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Ann Bannerson?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Galtieri?
Yes.
Mr. Tawari?
Yes.
And Chairman Hubbard-Coolidge?
Yes. No motion to close.
Seeing no public, Mr. Chairman, make a motion to carry the public hearing to June 6, 2018, which I believe is the next regular meeting of this authority, at 6:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the board may conduct the continuing hearing relative to the same budget. No further notice needs to be given.
June 5th.
June 5th is Tuesday. We're doing a Tuesday meeting on primary day.
Mm-hmm. We always do it.
Oh, it got moved to 6, right?
No, we
No.
always do it.
Oh,
We didn't this year?
okay.
No, last year we did it on primary day too.
No, we didn't.
Yes, we
I
did.
still have it as the 5th.
I
So
ran
it's the 5th.
from, well, I drove really quickly, but motion to carry.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought it was the 6th. My mistake.
For a second.
I'll be here the 6th. I don't know the rest of the week. I'll be here the 6th.
What we do we have that on our list to deal with the July meeting? Tonight?
It's on your list.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm trying to
So,
keep up.
Yeah.
We need a second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Roll call.
Roll call?
Sure. Mr. Ann Barrenson?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Galtieri?
Yes.
Mr. Tawari?
Yes.
And Chairman Hubbard-Coolidge?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, operations report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. April 2018. Under our pump stations, we, at Bennett's Lane Pump Station, following some troubleshooting of the VFD number 1, the variable frequency drive, it was noted that we had a bad relay, not allowing the drive to come up to full speed. That has been corrected and all back in service. Under our Meadow Avenue, 6 Mile Run, School Avenue, Bennett's Lane, and Weston Canal pump stations. At all those stations, there's 2 VFDs that operate the pumps. Those were serviced and PM'd by municipal maintenance under our maintenance contract, which includes cleaning, thermal imaging, full reports, stuff like that, tightening all connections. By doing it under the maintenance contract, we had a huge cost savings to the authority. This same work was done back in February of 14. We wound up saving $1,080 by doing it under the maintenance contract, doing it per hour versus per unit.
Good.
That's good, yeah.
Okay?
Now, are you still able to get the parts for those VFDs?
Yes.
Okay, because a lot of VFDs, I know from where I worked, they keep them for about 5 years, and the next thing you know, you can't get parts anymore.
Correct. We've pretty much, with the upgrades of the stations that we've had, those drives are no longer with us. So the drives that we have, we still are able to get parts.
Oh, good.
So we're still okay. All right. Under Rodney Avenue, I know Joe said the 2nd, but I believe it was the 3rd, the night of the meeting, that we put sewer into the station that day. Either way, so sewer is entering the Rodney Avenue pump station. The pump station has been operating accordingly. We have not received full flow to the pump station, but a good amount. We still need to introduce the DeRussy Brook, as well as the full amount of the Oak Brook Road aerial crossing. I would think by the end of the day tomorrow, that would be done. Okay, but the station has been operating properly. Under odor control, Evoqua performed their monthly inspection and service of all our odor and corrosion control systems. On the 11th of April, Evoqua installed the feed system at the Rodney Avenue pump station, so that system is up and running as well. Under developers-related issues, during the month, the guys performed inspections for the developer at 745 Hamilton Street. That project alone was 4 individual connections. A private owner is building a home on 248 Cedar Grove Lane. We performed an inspection for that connection, as well as we started. I was given the list from the township on all the roads to be paved in this coming year. So what we usually do is we go out and we inspect the castings for any that are damaged prior to work, and then we go back and do a final inspection.
You video that?
We
Or
do
is it
not.
just
We do not.
eyeball it and that's it?
Yeah, it's a list, and it's just like a spreadsheet, and we just keep track of. The other thing that comes up with that is, as you know, in our rates, rules, and regs, and in our specs, we use this caducer wrap, a shrink wrap around the castings and the cone of the manholes. So it was decided many years ago that during the paving projects, the authority would not ask the town to eat the cost of removing all that and installing that back. The authority never liked using riser rings, okay, the 2-inch steel castings, for the fact of they break, they make a lot of noise, they infiltrate water. So what we did is research through Campbell Foundry, so not to put the burden on the town or the contractor, to come up with a solution. They came up with an epoxy that bonds the cast irons, okay, to prevent leakage, movement, and the cracking is going to happen from time to time with snow plows. But it's been a product that's been proven. We've been using it now for, I think, the past 6 years, and it's done well.
Good.
Under collection systems, during the month, our staff flushed 53,120 feet of main sewer line as our ongoing preventive maintenance program. Our staff also performs over 7,000 feet of CCTV inspection in the attempts of identifying I&I. These inspections were concentrated in the areas of known concern. Industrial monitoring was performed this month, which includes the sampling and water meter readings along with effluent meter readings for the quarterly billing cycle. During the month, our staff went out and replaced the curb that was damaged at number 10 Fordham Road during a service lateral repair during the winter months. We responded to 2 E1 grinder failures in the Griggstown area of town. Those are the ones that we maintain. Those 2 of the 65 that we maintain.
Scott, a quick question.
Yes, sir.
On the curb maintenance,
Yes, sir.
do we do that, our people do that, or we give it to contractor?
So we removed the curb to do the service lateral repair. Where the water service and the service lateral were the same trench, there was very minimal room to use the backhoe. So it was easier to remove this short piece of curb so that the backhoe could do the work that it needed to do.
It's our people who do it, not.
That is correct.
We don't contract.
No, we do it ourselves.
Okay.
Yep.
Does the town have to inspect it because it's the town's curb? No.
No.
Trust us.
The second quarter testing of all backflow devices were performed, including Rodney Avenue Pump Station. That was the first done by our vendor. It was tested when it was installed by the contractor's plumber. This is the first time as for the second quarter.
And no issues?
No issues. We had, during the heavy rain event on April 15th through the 16th, we did experience wet weather sewer overflows at the locations typically affected in the Foxwood Drive area. We also had a overflow occurrence at the intersection of Pine Grove Ave and Blake Avenue. After investigating, the cause of that problem there was that the trench was left open on the Rodney Avenue project on Oak Brook. There were no plugs installed in either the new sewer being installed, which took on a lot of mud and debris into the pump station, as well as the pipe that was being abandoned. So what that did was it just drained the road and this pump station site, put all that extra water into the pipe, which caused an overflow upstream at Pine Grove and Blake. Everything was reported to DEP, cleaned up by the authority, and conversation about that should not happen again. Under complaints, our crew has responded to 3 homeowner complaints during the month. In each case, the problem was found to be the responsibility of the property owner, as well as the 2 E1 grinder failures that we responded to. Under safety, there were no accidents or injuries during the month of April. As well, during the month, FTSA provided safety training to both myself and our maintenance staff that included confined space awareness, bloodborne pathogens, hazmat awareness, arc flash awareness, lockout tagout, which is the control of hazardous energy, and HAZCOM, formerly known as the right to know. It was all given to the authority staff. Under new connections, I believe everybody will be happy.
We had a good month.
During the month, we had 172 connections alone,
Wow.
which brought us up to the 447.50, which put us over our anticipated to date at 420.
We had-
You guys had a busy month, huh?
We had 2 big ones, 2
It was
large
nice.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come in and pay all that at one time.
Canal Walk was the majority?
No, this was actually Hamilton Street. That was the big one.
It was a big, like 80-something.
The high rise with the retail on the lower level.
High rise, 4 stories, come on.
In Franklin, that's a high
High
rise.
rise for the area.
Well, I'm grateful that Franklin has those rules that, yes, that high rise will be considered for.
And I too, Mr. Chairman, like to thank you for your service. It's been great working with you, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
The issue of the plugs, is that a contractor performance issue? Is that part of what we're talking?
Yes.
Yes and no, and I'll discuss that exactly.
Okay.
As you see cringing from the back.
Okay, so all set now, operations wise? Okay, committee reports, negotiation personnel. As you can see, we hired a new executive director who will lead this authority down the right path. Municipal liaison.
Okay, I will try to keep this as short as possible. I think I mentioned this once before, but the township manager met with a company to look at that does warranties on laterals, both water and sewer lines. And what they do is for a low cost, relatively lower cost per month to the homeowner. They insure basically the water line going into the person into the owner's house. You can add on sewer lines as well. If anything happens, they have contractors already designated that respond within a certain time period, relatively quickly, is the way it was described to me, and then do the repair basically for out of the policy. So what I want to do is I was given information, so I will pass it on to our new executive director to look into. The township, of course, is going to have a legal review, so that means we'll be asking for a legal review from.
You mean you don't trust us to right now?
I would like the authority to do an independent review, but just to see if there's anything. It's really, the authority wouldn't be the one selling it. It's just, and the town wouldn't be selling the warranties. It's more of, they would be putting information out there, and us as well, so we want to make sure that we don't, that we do everything properly. But I'll pass this on to you.
When you're done looking at it, Brian, just forward it on, we'll take a look.
Yep, and it's pretty straightforward. So that's.
So that implies that homeowners insurance doesn't cover.
Correct.
If you had a break in that line, it wouldn't cover any damage done from the lateral coming from the
Well, so
main
this isn't-
city to into
Well, I
that.
think we need to take a look at
Yeah,
exactly what
so-
I think we need to take a look at what exactly it does say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what it's designed to
'Cause I
cover
would've
is the
thought
repair
homeowners
cost
insurance.
of the lateral itself.
Okay.
So if like correct me if
I
I'm wrong,
guess.
Scott, it can be pretty expensive to replace the lateral if it were to break the homeowner's portion. So this would cover the cost of that replacement, not the damage from it, but the repair cost.
Okay.
I believe, if I'm correct, in the Franklin area of town, but Elizabethtown Water, through a private company, offers that insurance for the water utility as well as the sewer utility.
Yeah.
And we've heard many times where we've gone out to a homeowner complaint on that area of town, where the insurance company has come in and sent their contractor to
Okay.
make those repairs.
Yeah. So we would be advertising it as an FYI only, so
Yep,
that way
we don't have to sell it,
residents
we don't
become
have-
aware of it.
Correct.
Okay.
But so I will pass on the
Got it.
information. All right. Paving. I know it's that season, so if you're missing any information, let me know. I'm on DPW committee, so we're seeing the list. So keep me up to date.
Pretty large.
So I would
It
like
is an
Gunther
extensive
Loop
list. What?
paved, I would like Gunther Loop paid over. I'm putting him on, please.
I don't hear anything. Okay. Special thanks to Christian and Scott. I know I've been hitting you guys up with a couple of requests for information, more from a municipal side of just as FYI and to keep up to date. So I appreciate both of you looking into the information and getting it back relatively quickly. Final thing is North Tract, our favorite topic lately. That is an area of focus of redevelopment for this municipality. Davidson Ave, there's a big investment in redeveloping it. So one of the things that I raised, I happened to be at one of the economic development meetings, and again, this is when Scott was able to get me information quickly. There's a lot of plans for that area to redevelop. So what I would like to do is ask Vince Dominic and Mark Healy from the municipality to come in to do a brief presentation to the commissioners, to the board. Keep it short so we don't stay too late, but so you can understand what the municipality's plan is for that area. And then knowing what Scott knows from the operation side of it, and again, what CME's been advising also with the amount of capacity over there, if it's an area that we really need to focus on and start planning capital-wise based on what their plans are as well. Because economic development could be one thing that it's like, well, we're working on it now. It could be a 2-year plan. It could be a 10-year plan. We don't want to turn away businesses or that like from coming in because we can't handle capacity. So it won't be a long presentation to keep the meetings on schedule, but I would like to invite them in the next month or so, just do a short conversation. Yep. And I asked
By the chairs. So the only thing I'd like to offer minor modification to that is, I'd like to meet with them separately before we even get
Yep.
to have that presentation here. So that
Absolutely.
way I would be aware, and my staff would be aware of any of the issues, and then we could have a more informative discussion
Yep.
with you all.
Absolutely. So if we
relative
need
to
to
the
postpone,
options.
but we'll try to do it
Yeah.
within the next 2 to
But
3 months.
I've already actually I ran into Vince this morning. I was over at one of the meetings, because you may be aware Christian goes over there weekly for meetings, and I tagged along this today. And I was greeted by Vince, who said that he wants to meet with me soon to discuss some
Yep.
items.
And again, this is part of, again, I've asked them to, for any of these projects, to also start incorporating our staff here, because we don't want to be the one, we typically aren't the ones holding up projects. I don't want to be the one holding, this to be the one, the holding up. So, that's it.
Do you know if it's a significant amount of flow that we're talking about? I mean, should CME look at this first to see if this thing is even doable?
There's
Or do
no,
we need to change, a major section of the sewer?
So
right,
I think that's why I would like to
Yeah,
get
we-
the facts, right?
we
and
want to see
get
what
it-
the plan is, because
and-
some of the plans that were described to me is reuse existing buildings that are there, and some of it is with a hope of bringing in somebody that might change the landscape over there a little bit. So we don't know, and you don't know how many are actually coming in. So that's why I think it's best that Brian meet with the municipality staff, and if you need Scott and
Because
Christian.
they need to keep him up, because you start putting some
Correct.
kind of laboratory in there or some kind of processing facility that is
Correct.
gonna use a lot of water,
Yeah.
Do we have the capacity there?
Yep.
That was the concern. So that's why I want them to do the presentation to the board after they meet also, so then we can see what we need to do, if we have to have our consulting engineers do some investigation.
We're
what
gonna be limited
modifications.
by the crossing there and how much flow it could take. And
I think-
MCUA blessing all of this too with saying.
Correct. And that's
we're
why,
reaching our max and
correct.
then we're up the creek.
Yep. So that's why we're, as soon as this,
Or in that case, we should say up the river over there, not the creek.
Put it right.
Because it is crossing the river.
I'm done.
We done?
I'm done.
Okay, construction committee, we had our engineer ready, describe that. Safety committee, anybody getting hurt this month?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Mr. Chairman, in regard to number 10, you have on the agenda for the first time a consent agenda. Basically, it's a one motion, 1 second item. I would like to add a few resolutions to that consent agenda.
Okay.
If the board has its packet, I would like to ask if the board would consider adding to the consent agenda the budget ratification resolution. This is following the escrow fund resolution. The user fee charge change resolution. Skip the 2 on Carborough. The resolution on the Foxwood Drive drainage agreement with CME, the communication media policy amendment, and that would be it, I believe, unless I missed one. Yeah. That was, I would like to recommend to the board they add those to the consent agenda items. And Mr. Chairman, you need to read the comment at the start of the consent agenda for the record.
Say that again?
All items listed are considered to be of a routine nature, thereby requiring one motion and 1 second for all
Okay.
items. If any member wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda, please advise the chair at this time which resolutions need to be handled separately, and they will be addressed and voted on separately.
Any concerns?
Seeing none, who offers the resolution for the payroll account, the amount of $120?
No, all
You
one
just
motion.
It's just one motion.
Oh,
You don't
I don't have to read them all?
Nope.
Oh,
It's our
okay.
gift to you for reading.
It's going away, it's your going away present.
Okay, who offers the motion?
Motioned.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Barrison?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Galtieri?
Yes.
Mr. Tuari?
Yes.
And Chairman
Yes.
Hamakovich?
Now we need to do the
We're gonna do the two resolutions regarding Harborough after the executive session. I would suggest, however, that the board has had a chance to review the closed session minutes, I believe, for the last meeting. And if anyone, unless anyone has an issue, the board can't adopt them right now.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the minutes?
Motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Van Barenson?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Ms. DeVoe?
Abstain.
Mr. Galtieri?
Yes.
Mr. Tuari?
Yes.
And Chairman Havakova?
Yes. Now, we're taking a vote, but we have 6 of us here. One of them is an alternate, so one of these votes doesn't count.
She abstained.
It would
Okay.
be Mr. Van Barenson, he's
Barenson.
alternate number 2.
Okay,
Wait, she abstained, so we're,
okay. Yeah, but on previous,
okay. Yes.
So the executive session minutes were adopted, 4 in favor, none against, 1 abstention.
now, do we wanna go into closed session now?
I would, Your Honor.
Ooh.
Too many times with municipalities.
Okay, do we have a motion to go into closed session?
Do we have to? Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Roll call.
The rationale for going to executive session pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12B. 4, negotiations other than collective bargaining. 7, attorney-client privilege and pending or anticipated litigation regarding Rodney Avenue Pump Station. And 8, personnel matters involving the individuals listed in the resolution from the acting executive director. Formal action will be taken at the conclusion of this executive session, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We have 7:50.
We need a
Roll call.
roll call.
Mr. Van Barenson?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yep.
Ms. DeVoe?
Yes.
Mr. Galtieri?
Yes.
Mr. Tuari?
Yes.
And Chairman Havakova?
Yes.